Okay, so do you ever just like feel like reading a book? A novel so captivating that you never want to put it down? Yeah, me neither. Reading isn't my coping mechanism. Okay, so you're here to learn how to get good at Splatoon. That's right, you should listen to me about how to get better because I have such a stacked resume. I've hit top 500, gotten disqualified for a management error, never completed a Ludi seeding, been in one scrim ever. Yep, sounds about right. I think it's fair to say that after 2 whole years of Splatoon 3, most people by now have at least played the game, navigated through the tutorial. If you haven't completed the tutorial yet, go do that. Alright, so how to get good at Splatoon? Oh, you wanted a well-structured guide? Haha, no. You get a bunch of random advice that may or may not be useful. So you boot up Splatoon after a long day, what's the first thing we should do? That's right, you skip the news. But before the games, there's 2 things that you should ideally be doing. One is obvious, always warm up. Any aim drills, movement practice, squid partying, anything works. If you're here to just play casual turf war, then it's really not that deep, but if you're going into ranked, you might want to make sure your muscle memory is up and running. But even more important than that, doing hand stretches before every play session. Look, I know what you're thinking. Well, I've been playing for 500 hours and never had issues. Oh sweet summer child, I've been there before. You know how so many people advocate for hand stretches, and how so many people talk about their horror stories with carpal tunnel? For those uninformed, carpal tunnel syndrome is a biology bullshit that I'm not qualified to explain. Basically, too much hand can equate to hand going bad. Nobody wants that. Once I started doing some hand stretches before a play session, the pain was gone. So yeah, take this stuff seriously. Hurting wrists are not fun, and not having it right now isn't an excuse. It took an entire 1,000 hours of Splatoon before I started feeling it. I think there was one more important thing to do before you hop into a match. If I don't remember it, then it's probably not important. Movement. Something that defines how a game is played. It sets the game's boundaries, flow, pacing, everything about the game. And when a game has movement, there are effective methods of it that give you a slight edge over your opponents. The most common movement mechanics people know about is squid rolling and main strafing. Squid rolling is literally programmed into the game and was plastered all over the direct, so it's hard to miss. For the most part, it's a way to parry and negate a small bit of damage, and if you get used to it enough, you can traverse certain areas faster without looking. It also makes you look cool. Main strafing is basically a way to easily move from one direction to another with little delay. Typically when you're swimming in one direction, holding the opposite direction will have your inkling slow down in order to change direction, while main strafing can basically eliminate that. By popping out of the ink for a split second, firing your weapon and popping back in, this is a very easy and flexible way to change directions on the fly, but requires the main weapon to shoot very fast. Oh right, shooters are the only one that can effectively do this. Another reason why I hate those weapons, just so easy to use and pampered so much by Nintendo. Only if there was a single mechanic that would make this possible in literally every single weapon in the game. Substrafing. If you're playing the game seriously and want to keep up with the higher levels, this is basically required to learn. And hey, it's easy. Now all you have to do is to be swimming and holding down the R, and once you want to change direction, you let go of ZL and continue holding R, and then start pointing your stick in the direction you want to go and start holding ZL and let go of R afterwards. Yep, very easy. Just practice them till you get the inputs right in the lobby, then play a few games intentionally forcing yourself to substrafe everywhere. It's confusing at first, but after those few games, it'll just be part of muscle memory. There's also things I don't know the name of. When climbing over a wall, you can go into kid form for a split second, skipping the long climbing animation you would do if you were to squid form up a wall normally. There's also sharking, which some of you may know as sitting under a ledge, or as I like to call it, morally correct spawn camping. But you know what isn't morally correct? How bad ultra stamp. When you swim up to people usually, they can see your ink splashing behind you. Okay, just use ninja squid. Haha. Are you dumb? Ninja squid isn't fully invisible as it still leaves a visible dent behind where you swam, so it's not quite useful if you're approaching somebody out of the blue. What you can do is to hold forward very slightly on your stick, and if you swim slowly enough, you won't leave any tracks. Oh, but f that too. Some people actually play with audio and can hear the bubbling noises you make when you're still in the ink. And a final thing, this isn't movement, but tapping Y to reset your camera. You can do a quick 180 in the direction your inkling was facing. I'd say this is pretty essential for Styx players who can't do instant 180s. Do you ever just see the enemy wipe out and think, wow, I have no idea what to do? Is that not applicable? Okay, do you ever just equip Sploosh, flank the enemy spawn, and wonder where your team is as they get wiped out? There's typically always something to be doing in a Splatoon game. The easiest thing to keep track of is objective. Are you making sure to play around objective, such as making space for it or gaining points yourself? Oh, but that requires fighting, and I always lose 1v1s. Just wait for your teammate. Why fight a neutral 1v1 when you can just 2v1? This can apply to a team-wide scale. You're likely not going to win a 1v4 by chucking yourself desperately into the enemy when the rest of your team is respawning. But then there's downtime. Whether you be waiting to regroup with your team or the enemy wiped out, what could you do? Paint. Please, this isn't advice, this is a cry for help. A bomb will do. Just please paint. I promise you that the less mobile weapons on your team will be very, very glad when you cover turf for them. I get we're playing ranked so we can avoid playing turf war, but I think that's a beginner mode for a reason. If you're a selfish player, why should you paint for your team then? It's simple. Charge up your special weapon. It's way easier to break through enemy defenses with a special weapon because of how stupidly overtuned they are. Basically, if you're not doing something productive in a game, you're either not taking advantage of a situation you're in or you're a sploosh player. Look, I know it's cringy, so I'll keep this brief. Just don't tilt Q. There's all sorts of reasons why you might get mad at a game, and different people have different ways of dealing with that anger. It's not really my job to point out how to deal with it, but please, don't Q ranked when you're angry. Seriously, I get your ego might tell you that you deserve the points back and that one more series is all you need, but trust me, that 9-loss streak is going to disagree with you there. Granted, some people might play better out of anger, but there's a pretty high likelihood you're just gonna start running it down in it, so you should either go play another game or queue casual. Well, that's some advice that I may or may not have followed myself. Who knows? If you want to see more, don't ask me for more. There's probably better people to look for advice from. That's basically all the important things I can think of off the top of my head. Honestly, the best advice out there is to just keep playing. Not just for general mechanics, but say a difficult weapon. When I picked up Splatoon, I was terrible, and now I'm slightly above average with them after 1,000 hours. Now I think that's all the advice I have for now. I'm sure there's not one very important thing that you should totally do if you care about playing better and don't have issues with it. Nah, I'm just overthinking about it.